Okay, not a story this time, but a little lesson called What to Hunt For on the Seashore. Now, I want to tell you something about the strange and wonderful creatures you may find when hunting on the seashore. One of the first things we notice flung up on the beach by nearly every tide is the starfish. It is sometimes called a crossfish or five-fingered jack, as it has 5 fingers or rays, each tapering gradually to a point, and all radiating from a small disc or body in the middle. If you turn one over, you will find that its mouth is right in the center, and that there is a deep groove down each ray, on the sides of which are a number of little tubes or tentacles, each ending in a tiny sucker. These are really its legs and feet, with which it crawls slowly about. The usual color of the starfish is a dusky red, but they are at times purple or yellowish. Sometimes you may find a larger and handsomer kind of starfish lying on the beach. This is the sun star, so called because of its bright scarlet color, which people thought made it shine out like the sun. It has a large round body and 12 short rays, and is studded all over with white knobs, which are really short spines. Occasionally, washed in by a wave, one may discover another very odd kind of starfish. It is a wriggling thing with 5 long hairy arms, like 5 little snakes joined by a disc. It owes its name, brittle starfish, to its habit of breaking itself into little pieces when alarmed. It is very timid, and if suddenly touched, it will fling off an arm or perhaps all its arms. But this does not kill the animal, for in a few days new rays begin to grow, and in a short time its 5 rays look as perfect as before. Among the commonest things left by the outgoing tide is the jellyfish. When you come across one, it looks just a mass of jelly, almost shapeless. For as its body is largely made up of seawater, part of it melts away if stranded for any length of time on the beach in the hot sun. But if from a boat or the pierhead you were to see one swimming in the sea, it looks like a hemisphere of colorless jelly, rather the shape of an umbrella without a stick, with 4 white circles in the center, 4 lobes hanging down, and a fringe of slender threads round the edge of its body, which helps it to capture its food. Walking along the wet sand just uncovered by the sea, you are sure to disturb a number of little crabs. Some scuttle away if they see you, others pretend to be dead, and then if you look away from them, press their back legs into the sand or amongst the pebbles, and soon cover themselves up, all except the front part of their bodies, where their eyes and little feelers stick out. These are the shore crabs, or green crabs as they are sometimes called, because they are more or less green in color. Their bodies are wide from side to side and narrow from front to back. Crabs are well protected all over, with a hard shell-like armor, which is jointed underneath and on their limbs. Their eyes are on short, movable stalks projecting from holes on each side of the front of their shell, so they can see all around them without turning their bodies. They have 10 limbs, 8 walking legs, and 2 pincers. The pincers are each divided into fingers for pinching and holding. If you pick one up, be sure to do so with your finger and thumb across its back, as crabs can nip very hard if they get a chance. When they grow too big for their shells, they wriggle out of them and are soft and flabby until another one grows. A very different looking crab is to be seen now and then at low tide. This is called a spider crab. It has a small body, wider at the bottom than the top, with long, slender legs. It is usually a dull yellowish brown and has hook-like hairs all over it. If you search among the rocks, you may often find the shell of a whelk in which a small crab is living. This is the hermit crab. It is really a very curious little creature, being quite soft with a long tail. So, as it is afraid of anyone giving its tail a nip, it protects it by tucking it away into an empty whelk shell, where it sits with its head and foreparts projecting from the opening. When hungry, it drags its house along, and it is very amusing the way it rolls and tumbles over the rocks. Here too, you may find a small round pumpkin-shaped shell covered with prickles. It is that of a sea urchin. When alive, it is covered all over with spines. But when the animal dies, its empty shell is tossed about by the waves, and the prickles soon get knocked off. So if you find the empty shell of a sea urchin on the shore, it will most likely be covered with hundreds of little knobs where the spines have been. The sea urchin is really related to the starfish. You would hardly think so at first sight, as they do not look much alike. But if you come across the shell of a sea urchin that has lost its spines, you will see that it really does look something like a starfish, curled up. And you can easily count its 5 rays. If you turn one over, when alive, in the center of the open space underneath is the animal's mouth. The color of the sea urchin is, as a rule, pale green, the tip of each spine being